I mean, it's a different kind of professional learning. Those of us who've tried it, it's really like we're focusing on kids learning, we're focusing on relationships, we're seeing this as like a collective. We've done some planning, but we've left some planning open too. So we're going to do some co-planning in the middle of the day, which will be really fun. And then, we're trying to really think locally about Iman's context and her classroom. But we will do some generalizations and think about other classrooms.
So I've always wanted to think more about how I could involve families in what we're learning, not just telling them what we're learning about, but having their input into what we're learning. So Jessica, Shinjung, and Maggie kind of helped create this letter to family. And so they took it home and they were able to draw and write a little bit about a structure that was meaningful to them.
I have my house in Las Vegas, and it's very special to me because it's where I made my first best friends, and maybe it's my first playdate that I had in my house, and I have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is that where you were born?
I have the Golden Gate Bridge. I know when it sank and when it was built. It sank in December 1st, 1951, and it was built in January 9, 1933.
Oh. Why is it meaningful to you then?
Because I was born close to there.
And what do you think it's made of?
Steel.
Steel.
It probably is.
It is.
This is a stove with a hot set. Is it mine?
Yeah, this is your picture.
I don't see 101 stores.
What the frick? That's humongous.
Yeah. So, hey, Evan, do you want to stand up and share about where this building is?
This building is in Taiwan.
This building is in Taiwan. What is it called? Taipei 101. You don't know why? Why do you think it's called 101?
Because it has 101 stores.
Because it has 101 stories.
I went there before.
Yeah.
One thing I was noticing is that kids who, not all of them, but most of the kids that were kind of from this area, originally born here, they were sharing houses, whereas kids who were coming from maybe other parts of the country or the world were sharing more buildings that are public spaces.
Sophie
With the glasses.
with the glasses
Sophie.
was connecting to when Evan was sharing about the skyscraper. I've been there too in Taipei. It was just just having a cultural a building that is meaningful that you've both been to that's not here. That's cool.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go as a class and look around our school about what materials do you think our school is made out of? Even what do you think is inside the walls?
Wood.
And we're also going to be thinking about, is there any part of our school that's kind of breaking down?
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah. Yes, Amelia. Yeah. I think also when I said we're gonna think about what's inside of the walls. One kid said that pink fluffy stuff. For the
Insulation.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting.
That was a really interesting one because there's the only concrete outside. Well, okay, that was broken was the one that was in a high traffic area by the basketball hoops.
Yes.
And so if you sort of look around, all the other concrete is mostly still intact.
Yeah.
There is.
But I think that might be interesting, especially obviously could connect to materials and strength of materials and maintenance of materials. but also like kind of thinking about that like interdependence situation of like how much of that is like
Why and
kids
how.
doing that, and like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I mean having like a bigger conversation too about like how do we help that? Like how would we solve that problem? How would we, you know, like tell our peers about like how it's important to like, you know what I mean, take care of our buildings.
I also noticed that some students are walking on
Okay,
the
yeah, close to
concrete
where I am.
bricks, like on the side, and then they were noticing that it's wobbly.
Wiggly.
Yeah.
There was
And
like
then-
this corner one that was wobbly.
Yes. And then like I asked some of them, and they said it's because moths were growing inside.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about like how nature and the
Uh-huh.
plants
Sure.
are interacting with, you know, the.
So it looks like that on that pole that some of the metal is coming off or
It looks like some of the paint just got scraped.
Yeah, how do you,
Like you
what,
can kind
what
of
do you think
still see
happened
the
to
metal.
it? What do you think happened to it to make it look like that?
Because if it was just old, I'm guessing a bunch of other ones.
Just old, it just flaked off for being old.
Yeah. And there was a hole inside there. And then also Denise found that there is a crack in the garbage can. And this is made out of hard plastic. Silicone is kind of a little bit more of a softer plastic.
I know, I felt it like.
Yes. Okay, Avery.
I saw that too, and Denise actually pushed it, and it actually moved out.
This part right here. Oh.
Why do you think why do you think it started to get breaking down like that? Why was it on the garbage can?
Somebody punched it.
Somebody might have punched it?
No, maybe it accidentally kicked his ball on it.
Okay, Mithrin.
So maybe like a few people play soccer and soccer ball. Maybe so maybe somebody would have like hit the track and.
Yeah, so as you can see,
What the?
okay, as you can see, there are different structures on our map. Some that people talked about. Ben talked about the Golden Gate Bridge. Michael talked about a house in Florida. And so in a moment, we're going to talk about 4 different structures. One group is going to talk about the Great Wall of China. Another group is going to talk about the Sun Pyramid in Mexico. Another group is going to talk about a longhouse, which is actually local in Washington. And then another group is going to talk about igloos in Alaska.
Yep.
So we haven't talked too much about like who built the wall. Can one man build the wall?
I think a man.
A man, just one man?
No, a lot of men.
A lot of men.
No, I think like a lot of men and a lot of girls because girls can build stuff too.
Do you want to watch a video about who built the wall?
Yes. That's
Me?
Hey, there's a man.
Me?
So that's our prediction, right? Like man and woman both built the wall. Let's see if that's right.
I think there's probably a lot of men because girls didn't have that many rights. Great Wall.
So what did we learn, or do you have any
Yeah.
questions
Oh, that's how
about the
long it's taken.
video?
人们一起盖的，是古人们一起盖的。
帮老师写下来，古人们一起盖的。What do you have on your sticky notes? Can I take a look?
Great Wall.
And I want to know from the different structures that we just talked about in small groups, what you learned and what questions you have, what you noticed and what questions you have.
And so we were talking about the Pyramid of the Sun, which is a very, very large pyramid. That's from it. And does someone from our group want to share how old this pyramid is?
很快就到我们了。You said. 很快就到我们了。
2,000 years old. And look, it's still standing.
So then we started wondering, well, what is it made out of that can last 2,000 years?
Concrete, volcanic rock, and limestone.
Tell us a little bit more. So so you see our volcano here.
Roswell.
There's actually about 3,000 volcanoes nearby.
I feel like from like observing at least like your students today and their engagement, like I feel like they would like love something hands-on next. Like whether that's like a field trip or like someone coming in or them building something, like I think that that would be a good next step for them just because it feels very involved.
I was just gonna say they could build for these different environments.
Oh, yeah, that's true
We
too.
have more environments, so
Yeah.
they could think about what materials might they use and.
I feel like you could do something around like designing your dream school or designing parts of, like they could be in small groups to design parts of the school to like whatever. I'm not sure how you would integrate the material stuff, maybe drawing on what other people have said, but I think that that could be really motivating. I also was thinking about the biomimicry stuff, which I think is really cool and inspiring, so you could also share examples of those and then have them they could do some biomimicry designs like based on.
This was meaningful for a lot of kids.
Yeah,
in
it
terms
really
of
was.
I mean, if you can.
Way
one thing
more
you
than I
least-
think. At least something was meaningful for everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were each excited about something.
Yeah, either it was outdoors or it was the thinking about the connections about where they've been in Mexico or and the students speaking Mandarin, like they. I mean,
their
I need to
building that they brought in.
Yeah, there's like a little for everything in there.
Your